Hello and welcome to today's webinar on the topic impact of lockdown on women. Time to move towards a sustainable and equitable society with special focus on Sustainable Development Goal 5, gender equality, organized by Council for Green Revolution and co-hosted by VNC and KPR Foundation. Lockdown has isolated millions of women across various levels and rendered them more vulnerable from health and the economy to security and social protection. Not only has COVID-19 pandemic affected many women and men differently, but it has also affected unequally placed women differently. If as a result of lockdown, gender roles within the household revert back to 1950s, flattening the pandemic curve would have flattened the gains made by women towards equality across the globe. We need to be mindful of how we kill the pandemic without causing collateral damage to women's equality and mental health. The threat to women's rights and freedoms posed by COVID-19 go far beyond physical violence. The deep economic downturn accompanying the pandemic is likely to have a distinctively female face. In today's webinar, we will analyze and highlight the disproportionate gender impacts of the lockdown in order to move towards an equitable and sustainable society. Because gender equality is not only a fundamental human right but a necessary foundation for a peaceful and sustainable world. I am Sri Harshita Chada. Joining me today on the panel are Srimati Leela Lakshma Reddy Garu, environmentalist, founder, Council for Green Revolution; Ms. Ravya Reddy, social activist, founder, VNC; Dr. Purnima Nagaraja, psychiatrist and empowerment expert at Dhriti Wellness Clinic; Dr. Prageeta Jiraju, associate professor, HR and OB, Symbiosis Law School, Hyderabad; Mrs. Spandana Reddy, practicing advocate at Supreme Court and legal advisor, Tata Trust. Thank you to all the speakers for joining me on the webinar. Without any further delay, I would like to first begin the discussion with Srimati Lakshma Reddy Garu. So let's first analyze and understand the impact of present pandemic on women. So ma'am, I request you to present your views on the same and tell what does it say about the society as a whole.
Thank you, Harshita. First of all, congratulations. చాలా మంచి ప్రోగ్రామ్ ఆర్గనైజ్ చేస్తున్నందుకు, అట్లాగే ఈ రోజు కార్యక్రమంలో పార్టిసిపేట్ చేస్తున్న అందరికీ పేరు పేరున నమస్కారం. ముఖ్యంగా పూర్ణిమ మేడం, ప్రగీత మేడం, వినీత మేడం అందరికీ నమస్కారం. అలాగే స్పందన అండ్ శ్రావ్య, నర్సన్న, సాయిభాస్కర్ అందరికి కూడా వెల్కమ్ చెప్తూ, ఈ రోజు అంటే దాదాపుగా ఒక 2 నెలల నుంచి అందరం కూడా ఈ కోవిడ్-19 ప్రభావాన్ని అందరం కూడా చూస్తూ ఉన్నాం. ఈ సమయంలో టెక్నాలజీని ఉపయోగించుకొని రకరకాల సమస్యల పైన ఎన్నో వెబినార్స్ పెడుతూ చాలా విషయాలు చర్చించుకుంటున్నాం. అయితే ఈ రోజు ఏదైతే ఒక టాపిక్ మనం ఎంచుకున్నామో ఇది నిజంగా చాలా డిస్కస్ చేయాల్సినటువంటి విషయం. ఎందుకంటే ఎప్పుడైనా సమాజంలో ఏ చర్చ వచ్చినా కూడా ఫస్ట్ లేడీస్ అనే దాని మీద మనందరం చర్చిస్తూ ఉంటాం. అయితే కోవిడ్ వచ్చిన సందర్భంగా ముఖ్యంగా ప్రభుత్వాలు, పరిశ్రమలు, వ్యక్తులు అందరూ ఒక ఆర్థిక స్థితిగతులలో అవకతవకలలో ఉన్నప్పటికీ ఈ అంతా కూడా ఇండైరెక్ట్ గా ఒక మహిళ పైన చాలా ఎఫెక్ట్ పడింది అనేది నా ఉద్దేశం. ముఖ్యంగా మన భారతదేశంలో ఒక 40 కోట్ల మంది అన్ఆర్గనైజ్డ్ సెక్టార్ పీపుల్ ఉన్నారు. దాంట్లో ఉన్నటువంటి విమెన్ అంతా కూడా ఈ రోజు వచ్చినటువంటి అనుకోని పరిస్థితి, ఇది ఎవరు కూడా మనం ముందు ఒక ప్లాన్ వేసుకుని మనకు కావాల్సిన ఒక సమయం ఇచ్చి అన్ని సమకూర్చుకునే సమయం మనకు దొరకలేదు. అలాంటి సమయంలో రోజువారీ వేతనం పైన ఆధారపడినటువంటి మహిళలు, మధ్యతరగతి మహిళలు, వీరందరూ కూడా చాలా రకాల సమస్యలను వారు ఎదుర్కొంటూ ఉన్నారు. మనందరం చూస్తూ ఉన్నాం. ఇవన్నిటిలో ముఖ్యంగా మనము చాలా మనకి బాధ కలిగించినటువంటి విషయం, అందరం కూడా చూస్తూ ఏమి చేయలేనటువంటి పరిస్థితులు ఉన్నటువంటి విషయం ఏంటి అంటే, ఈ ఏదైతే మైగ్రేటెడ్ లేబర్ ఉన్నారో ఒక ప్రాంతం నుంచి ఒక ప్రాంతానికి వాళ్ళు వలస వెళ్లే క్రమంలో వారు పడినటువంటి ఇబ్బందులు బహుశా భారతదేశ చరిత్రలో ఎప్పుడు కూడా జరిగి ఉండదు. దాదాపుగా ఒక 10 కోట్ల మంది రోడ్ల పైన వారి యొక్క కుటుంబంతో పాటుగా కొన్ని వందలాది వేలాది కిలోమీటర్లు నడిచి వెళ్ళడం అనేది నిజంగా మనందరం కూడా చాలా అంటే ఒక సిగ్గుపడాల్సినటువంటి విషయమే. కానీ ఎవరిని కూడా ఏమీ చేయలేని నిస్సహాయ స్థితిలో టీవీలలో వాళ్ళను చూస్తూ ఒక మౌన వీక్షణం చేసాం తప్ప మనం ఏం చేయలేకపోయాం. ఈ మనకి ఏదైతే లాక్డౌన్ స్టార్ట్ చేశారో, స్టార్ట్ చేసే కంటే ముందే ప్రభుత్వాలు, కేంద్ర ప్రభుత్వం, రాష్ట్ర ప్రభుత్వాలు చర్చించుకుని ముఖ్యంగా ఈ మన భారతదేశంలో ఉన్నటువంటి ఇంత కోట్ల మంది మైగ్రేటెడ్ లేబర్ గురించి వారు సరియైన ఆలోచన చేసి ఉండాల్సిందని నా అభిప్రాయం. ఎందుకంటే కేవలం 1500 రూపాయలు ఇస్తున్నాం, బియ్యం ఇస్తున్నాం అనే పదే ప్రభుత్వాల మాటలు మనకు చెప్తున్నారు. కేవలం ఒక బియ్యము, ఒక 1500 రూపాయలతో వారి యొక్క కుటుంబం గడవడం కష్టం. బియ్యము కాకుండా ఇతరేతర అవసరాలు చాలా ఉంటాయి. వారికి కావాల్సిన పోషక విలువలు బియ్యం నుంచి అందవు. ఇతరత్ర చాలా అవసరాలు ఉంటాయి. కాబట్టి మహిళ ఈ లాక్డౌన్ సమయం స్టార్ట్ అయినప్పటి నుంచి కూడా నిజంగా తను ఎదుర్కొంటున్నటువంటి సమస్య చాలా చాలా భయంకరమైనటువంటి సమస్య. మనము ఇప్పుడు ప్రయాణికులు రోడ్ పైన నడుస్తున్నప్పుడు గమనించినట్లయితే ఒక స్త్రీ పురుషునితో సరి సమానంగా నడుస్తూ, ప్రకృతి పరంగా స్త్రీకి ఏదైతే కొన్ని విషయాలు ఉంటాయో, కొంతమంది విమెన్ ప్రెగ్నెంట్స్ ఉన్నారు, గర్భిణీ స్త్రీలు ఉన్నారు, కొందరికి ఋతుక్రమం ఉంటుంది. పురుషులతో సమానంగా ఒక ఫిజికల్ హెల్త్ లేనటువంటి స్త్రీలు పిల్లలను ఎత్తుకొని వారి యొక్క లగేజ్ మోసుకుంటూ వారితో సమానంగా నడవటం, మరి ఆగిన దగ్గర వారికి కావాల్సినటువంటి ఆహార సదుపాయాలను వారు సమకూర్చడం, ఇదే క్రమంలో రేపెట్లా మనకు ఆర్థిక స్థితిగతి ఏంటి అనే ఒక భయం, ఇలాంటి అన్ని విషయాలు కూడా స్త్రీ యొక్క ఆరోగ్యం పైన, ఆమె యొక్క మానసిక స్థితి పైన, ఆమె యొక్క శారీరక స్థితి పైన చాలా చాలా ప్రభావం చూపించిందని నేను అనుకుంటున్నాను. మరి ఈ రోజు ఈ సమస్య కోవిడ్ వెళ్ళిపోగానే తగ్గిపోతుంది అనుకోవడానికి లేదు. అసలైతే ఇది కోలుకోవడానికి ఇంకెంత సమయం పడుతుందో ఎవరం కూడా అంచనా వేయలేని స్థితిలో ఉన్నాం. మరి ఈ రోజు మన భారతదేశం యొక్క జీడిపి, మన యొక్క వృద్ధి రేట్ చూస్తే చాలా తగ్గిపోయిందని మన గణాంకాలు చెప్తున్నాయి. మరి ఇదంతా కూడా ఒక కుటుంబం పైన భారం పడినప్పుడు తప్పకుండా స్త్రీకి ఇది మొదటగా ఎఫెక్ట్ అయ్యే అంశంగా మనం పరిగణించుకోవచ్చు. మరి మన ఆర్థిక వ్యవస్థ, ఎప్పుడైతే దేశం యొక్క ఆర్థిక వ్యవస్థ బాగుపడుతుందో అప్పుడు స్త్రీ యొక్క ఆర్థిక వ్యవస్థ బాగుపడుతుంది. ఎవరైతే చిన్న చిన్నగా వారు రోజువారీ కూలి పనులు చేసుకున్నప్పుడు వారికి కొంత ఆర్థిక స్వాతంత్రం ఉండింది. వారు భర్తతో పాటుగా డబ్బులు తెచ్చుకొని చిన్న చిన్న అవసరాలు తీర్చుకోగలిగే ఒక వసతి ఉండే. మరి ఈ రోజు అది కూడా వారు కోల్పోవడం జరిగింది. అలాగే పెద్ద కుటుంబాలలో స్త్రీకి శారీరకంగా పని ఒత్తిడి, రకరకాల ఒత్తిడిలు కూడా చాలా ఉన్నాయి. ఇదే కాకుండా ఆశ్చర్యకరంగా ఈ లాక్డౌన్ సమయంలో గృహహింస కేసులు ఎక్కువయ్యాయని మనకి గణాంకాలు చెప్తూ ఉన్నాయి. అది చాలా బాధపడాల్సిన విషయం. ఎందుకంటే స్త్రీ బయట ఉన్నా సేఫ్టీ లేదు, ఇంట్లో ఉన్నా సేఫ్టీ లేదు అన్నప్పుడు తనకి ఇంకా అసలు ఎక్కడ సేఫ్టీ ఉంటుంది అనేది ఒక పెద్ద ప్రశ్నార్థకంగా మారిపోయింది. మరి ఈ రోజు మనకు గణాంకాలు చెప్పిన దాంట్లో చూస్తే మొత్తం మన ఒక భారతదేశంలోనే కాదు, ఓవరాల్ వరల్డ్ లో ఈ గృహహింస కేసులు అనేవి చాలా ఎక్కువైనాయి మనకు చెప్తూ ఉన్నారు. సో ఈ రకంగా ప్రతి అంశంలో కూడా స్త్రీ తను కష్టాలను ఎదుర్కొంటూనే ఉంది. మరి ఈ కష్టాలను ఇప్పటి వరకు జరిగింది కాకుండా ఇక ముందు తను ఈ కష్టాల నుంచి ఎలా బయటపడాలి, ప్రభుత్వాలు ఇస్తున్నటువంటి ఈ సహాయం సరిపోతుందా, మరి దీని ద్వారా స్త్రీకి ఎంతవరకు తను ఆర్థికంగా నిలదొక్కుకోగలుగుతుంది, ఎప్పుడైతే ఆర్థికంగా నిలదొక్కుకోగలుగుతుందో చాలా సమస్యలకు ఒక పరిష్కారం లభిస్తుంది. కాబట్టి స్త్రీకి ఒక ఆర్థిక స్వావలంబన దొరికినప్పుడు తను కావలసినటువంటి కుటుంబ అవసరాలు తీర్చుకోవడమే కాకుండా మానసికమైన ఒత్తిడి నుంచి తను రిలీఫ్ కాగలుగుతుంది. మరి మన అందరం కూడా ఈరోజు చాలా మంది ఎక్స్పర్ట్స్ ఉన్నారు మన దగ్గర. మరి వారి యొక్క అభిప్రాయాలను, వారి యొక్క సలహాలను, అంటే రాబోయే రోజులలో గడిచిపోయింది, కనీసం వచ్చే రోజులలో స్త్రీలు ఎలాంటి జాగ్రత్తలు తీసుకోవాలి, వారి పట్ల ప్రభుత్వాలు ఎలాంటి బాధ్యతను నిర్వహించాలి, మరి సమాజం ఎలాంటి బాధ్యతను వారి పట్ల నిర్వర్తించాలి అనేటువంటి విషయాలను మీరందరూ తెలియజేస్తారని నేను ఆశిస్తూ, మరి హర్షిత ఈ రోజు మంచి ఇనిషియేటివ్ తీసుకుంది, తనకి నేను కంగ్రాచులేషన్స్ చెప్తూ, అలాగే ఈ కార్యక్రమంలో పార్టిసిపేట్ చేసిన అందరికీ పేరు పేరున మరొకసారి ధన్యవాదాలు తెలియజేస్తూ నాకు ఈ అవకాశం ఇచ్చినందుకు థ్యాంక్ యూ వెరీ మచ్.
Thank you, ma'am. So ma'am has given an important question to all of us. So I would like to now forward this to Shravya ma'am. So with the sudden lockdown, when women find themselves isolated, alone, and vulnerable, what are their options?
A very good morning, everyone. Thank you, Harshita, for the question. See, for more than a decade, I've been working on gender equality as well as, women rights on par with United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. This pandemic is exposing and exploiting women, in all kinds, be it gender inequality or be it women health or rights or freedoms, everything. So what I basically feel is like, the main reason for this is the unfair and unequal treatment, be it jobs or any other workforce. I feel that post COVID-19 also women are going to be at high risk of losing jobs, because especially most of them, particularly 70% of people, women we have as friend healthline workers. So there is a chance all these people might lose jobs after COVID-19 also. So I just feel there is one solution. We definitely need more number of women at the table when they make decisions regarding with the pandemic situation also, because women in insecure jobs urgently need some basic social protections, be it from health to insurance to paid sick leave, childcare or income protection, whatever it is. And we definitely need some inclusive economic models, because today we are in a situation where we can't get out of our homes and we can do our works peacefully. For instance, we have partnered with another organization called RS Crafts, where we have come up with a sustainable mask. This is a collaborative approach by VNC as well as RS Crafts, where we are trying to employ the single woman. They're happily sitting at home and they're stitching these masks and they're able to earn their own livelihood. So like these, we need different kind of initiatives. And now that the technology is improved so much and the world is on the digitalization phase, vocational training can even happen through webinars also. And we are trying to come up with a new model where we are going to teach them cooking or next level craft or art, whatever it is. And I just see it in a certain way, where I think we all need to be strong. Many women need to come together. We need to be each other's support. And coming to another aspect also, rightly, like Leela ma'am mentioned, where even domestic violence is also becoming a big threat to the women community. And so these issues can be addressed. Yeah, these issues need to be addressed very soon as possible.
Okay, ma'am, thank you. So now, considering the fact that the issues need to be addressed, and you've also mentioned about women getting training at homes, I would like to ask Dr. Prageeta ma'am, to what extent are we seeing remote options as possibilities for sustainable livelihoods in informal sectors?
First of all, thank you, Harshita. Leela Reddy garu, namaskaram, and namaskaram to all the co-panelists. When we talk about working from home and paid work, etc., first of all, we need to go into certain fundamental aspects. Lockdown, the way the government has declared lockdown, the government's intention was only to curtail infection. That's all. కేవలం ఇన్ఫెక్షన్ ని నిరోధించడం కోసం లాక్డౌన్. కానీ ప్రాణాల్ని కాపాడే లాక్డౌన్ ప్రాణం మీదకి ఎంతగా తీసుకొస్తుంది అన్నది ఆలోచన లేదు. It was only to curtail infection. What are the associated afflictions? Government did not, or rather it was not able to foresee, because this is the first time we are really facing this kind of a problem. Now, coming to payment and remote work, etc. Work from home itself is it a gendered concept? That's what I would like to ask. Is it really a gendered concept? When it comes to South Asian countries, as Leela Reddy madam said and Shravya garu also said, first of all, sharing of domestic work is not really a cultural norm in our country. For that matter, in South Asia itself, India and Pakistan are on the top when it comes to non-sharing of domestic work between husband and wife. When it comes, otherwise India and Pakistan don't see eye to eye, but when it comes to unequal norms, both are same. And when it comes to remote work, we have two kinds of sectors. One is the formal sector where we all are working. So we have this online method, at least where we are able to gain our income. Otherwise, other categories of workers are people who are homemakers and people who are home-based workers. Both of them are women. Homemakers are nobody, but అతిగా చిన్న చూపు చూసే హౌస్ వైఫ్స్ అందరినీ మనం హోమ్ మేకర్స్ అనేస్తాం. And it is traditionally, these are unpaid work. They are working from home, working at home, and completely unpaid work. Families low, within these families, they do have family businesses, they do have family agriculture, they do have family poultry. Besides domestic chores, these women also help the family, help the husband in performing agricultural work, poultry work, family businesses, etc. But unfortunately, neither they are recognized as workers, nor their contribution is paid, nor do they have any kind of insurance or protection or anything. We have interviewed some women like this. I just asked them one question: Amma, meer inti pani kaakunda inkem pani chestaru? What else do you do other than household work? She said, no, I don't do anything else. It's only household work, because they feel that even working in their fields, working in poultry, work, extending agricultural help, or working in the family business is just an extension of domestic chores, nothing more. So this is the traditional work from home workers, the housewives who don't even figure in any national accounting or national statistics, nor do they find any place in the GDP of the country. Second are home-based workers. Home-based workers, these are very, very important women who play an important role in the global supply chains, but often underpaid and invisible. We never see them. These are people who work at home. Large companies, multinational companies or subcontractors, they hire groups of women to do some piece rate work. ఇప్పుడు పెద్ద పెద్ద గార్మెంట్ కంపెనీస్ ఉంటాయి, వాళ్ళు ఏంటి బటన్లు కుట్టడానికి, స్లీవ్స్ కుట్టడానికి, they hire women. These women work from home. The convenience is they work from home so they can manage work and home, but they are grossly underpaid. No protection, no insurance. The day lockdown has come, all these companies stopped working. So these people are thrown out of employment. Alagan viledo chala sampainchestunnaran kadu. Whatever meager earnings they have, even that they don't get. Even that they don't get. These are the traditional home-based workers, they are called. Unfortunately, there is no remote working facility for them. The day they don't have work, because the industry itself is closed down, so obviously these women are thrown out of employment. And now comes we all, the modern work from home people. You know, what is the major problem which we people have? We are newly adjusting to this phenomenon. We are very, very newly adjusting to this phenomenon. The day there is no rushing in the morning going out, but definitely it is not so cool sitting at home either. Because first of all, no support services at home, no maids, no cooks, no plumber, no electrician, no support systems at all. And second thing is childcare, which has been a domestic responsibility. Otherwise, now childcare has got a double responsibility. The first thing is homeschooling. We have to see that the child is attending online classes or homeworks or whatever. Home feeding, homeschooling, and home taking care, and taking care of elders, and we ourselves attending to our personal work, back-breaking work, which we never expected this kind of work. Because we are all used to sitting outside for 8 hours or 8 to 10 hours. We are all working outside and then coming home, then we have responsibilities. But sitting at home, the work has only increased. Luckily, some of us are being paid salaries, but there are also cases where women and men also, they are not getting their salaries on time because they are not working. In 2007-9, when there was a recession in India, men were mostly affected because a lot of them lost their jobs. But this time, in this pandemic-induced recession, women are likely to lose more jobs. Which kind of women are they? Or what kind of women are they? Women working as cooks, women working as maids, women working in retail, women working in textile, in hotels, in departmental stores, in beauty parlors. there is no remote option at all for them, remote working option at all. And tailors, to large extent, tailors working under bigger tailors, there is no remote working option. So women, once they lose employment, or if their husbands lose employment, poverty touches women faster. Women and children are the first ones who actually taste poverty, who actually taste helplessness. And in this pandemic situation, government has definitely locked down maybe to curtail infection, but the associated afflictions were ignored by the government largely. Remote options are not at all possible for certain people. But again, on the contrary, we have another empowering strategy called as self-help groups, the Swayam Sahayaka Brundalu, what we call. These people under COVID, there are certain groups which are doing very well. For instance, in Bihar, there is something called as Didi Ki Rasoi. These are all women who have actually started canteens together. Veelandaru kuda grassroots level women. They have started something called as canteens in hospitals, canteens in various other places. And now they are taking it as a major responsibility to feed people during COVID. They are all working in hospitals. So they are asking the hospital management to provide them with some beds in the night so that anytime anyone is hungry, they are willing to feed. So for them, COVID means collectively we did. That's how they are projecting COVID. So group enterprises are able to do well, but how safe they are as a group without that social distancing is again a matter of personal concern. This is another aspect of it. So when it comes to COVIDs and self-employment, remote working options, etc., remote working option is not an option for every other occupation. Some occupations are lucky enough. Now, for example, you look at frontline health workers. They are 24/7, they are expected to be in the hospital. If at all they go back to their traditional responsibility of taking care of their children, what will happen to the healthcare system? What will happen? Well, every day there are hundreds of people, dozens and dozens of people getting admitted in the hospital. What will happen in the hospital? There will be chaos in the hospital, pandemonium in the hospital. So at the same time, when it comes to remote working options for women, the options are yes and the options are no, and the options are yes, it is not feasible also in many cases. This is my
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks.
As Prageeta ma'am mentioned about women losing out jobs and there are short-term loss of work and any earnings. Now I'd like to ask Dr. Purnima ma'am, what kind of psychological distress are all these impacts going to create on women, and how are they going to affect them?
So to start with, mental health, I think should be placed right on top of the list of whiplashes that this pandemic has created for us. The mental process has been disturbed so badly that this wave of mental illness is going to take on and continue for the next several years. The first thing that I'd like to mention here is that as both the other guests have said, Leela Garu and Pradeep madam, that women are the ones who are most affected, and I completely agree with that, because the onus of maintaining the family, the onus of doing all the work within the family and make sure the family runs properly, the onus is on women. The onus of maintaining the family is on the woman. And be it an IT professional or a doctor like me or anybody, this no maid, no plumber, this no domestic help situation, as probably we've not really, not having a maid for 2 or 3 days or not having domestic help for 2 or 3 days, we manage, but not having for 2 or 3 months when you have elderly people in the house or something like that. See, I live in a gated community where we have a lot of elderly people well into their 70s and 80s who don't have any support because the children are in America. So we kind of rallied around getting them groceries, checking on them and all that. So the thing is, unless the consciousness shifts towards mental health, I don't think that, we're doing a great job of handling this pandemic, because I think mental health professionals are also frontline workers, because since day one, they've been on the job. Anxiety is reigning supreme. Every call I get is of, children also asking me, like, if my mother and father die of COVID, what's going to happen to me? And this is a sixth grader, because they saw the telephone number somewhere on Facebook or something like that. So anxiety is something that scares everybody. The other thing is, like madam said, the household chores. All of a sudden, Facebook is inundated with, exotic cooking, buns and, bread and all kinds of things. And also inundated with pictures of men cooking. Okay. Did we need a pandemic to actually reverse the gender roles? It looks like, this pandemic has at least succeeded in reversing gender roles for a few people. So there are jokes on, the washing dishes, there are jokes on, doing housework, and there are so many memes that are coming up, which in a way is a good thing. That's one of the good things that came out, that if they don't revert to type, men helping out and, helping with the housework, at least in those few of those upwardly mobile khandans, I think it's a great thing. Now we're talking of the middle class, the lower middle class, and the poverty ridden, which is more than 4 to 5, 40 crores people in this country. And we've seen the plight of the migrants. I myself have reached out and helped feed as many as I could. The sad part is, if the civil body has to be there to help, today the migrants are alive because of the civil body. Okay, because of all the people there, the NGOs, the voluntary workers, the volunteers, the housewives, who have kind of, cut down on their own incomes just to feed people from outside. I think today those migrants, owe a lot to, their own follow, countrymen, rather than, unfortunately, the government. And it also shows that, there's a failure of the government. If the civil body has to take such an active role, it is a failure of the government. Maybe a little more planning. Like I said, this is the first time we're dealing with all this. I have never in 27 years of my life worked out of home. Never. Okay, for me, it's getting up in the morning and rushing to work and coming back late in the night, completely brain dead. Okay, so for me, it's initially it was like a vacation. For 1 week, I had no phone calls. Only people who were asking about anxiety, and nobody who wanted a consultation. And then you see the anxiety, got higher, the OCD got higher, people getting obsessed about washing. Imagine a person who already has OCD, who's already washing her hands, 50 times. Now she's washing her hands 150 times. I have people with ulcers on their hands, just showing them to me and saying, ma'am, please help us. We are going on and on washing the house. We don't know what to do. So you see, mental health issues, just like your pandemic is an invisible enemy, mental health is also this invisible enemy that's intruding onto your mind, making you do things, say things, think things that should not have been there in the first place. Suicide rates have increased. You might have already read that in the first 11 days of the lockdown, 92,000 cases of child abuse were reported. And these are reported cases. Please don't tell me about the unreported cases. I deal with the unreported ones. Okay. And domestic violence went up by 50%. Pornographic viewing went up by about 50 to 60%. And so you see the PUBG, it was the most downloaded game in this 2 months, right? There's another game called Sin City, which is the most downloaded game. So these are this is what has happened to us. Children obviously can't take sitting in front of a computer and taking classes. They're used to sitting in a class, elbowing their classmates, throwing erasers at somebody else. You see, so the next group of people worst hit are children. How can you have an online class for a kindergarten child? Give us a break. So, we are trying our best. We are trying to do, what we can given these circumstances, but give us a break. A child needs to play with atta and do all crazy things, right? And then you have parents who are working from home but can't indulge in that, because I think a lot of people have forgotten what parenting is, honestly, because two people going out to work to earn a living has become the norm these days. Very few people can survive on one income. So two people go out to work. Everybody's tired, everybody's angry, everybody's mega pissed off. Okay, so a child says, let's do this, let's do that, all the silly things that we did as children, playing with atta, rolling rotis for mom, making the map of Australia and mom actually making those rotis. Forgotten, completely forgotten. So for parents to even indulge their children, it's like a nightmare. I have so many parents who ring up with anxiety because the children are going to be home till September and God knows for how long after that. Okay, children who wake up late, children who sleep late, children who are stuck to their mobile phones, parents who are stuck to their mobile phones. See, today I am using my mobile phone at least 70% more than I normally use it. Okay, I'm constantly on my phone because I'm working from home. So you see, I'm just trying to be as anecdotal as possible about this, but you see, you can understand the undercurrent. There's so many suicide attempts. The suicide rate apparently has gone up by 30%, and in the world it's more than that. 70% divorce rates in China itself, right? So when we are talking about these statistics, just the thought of it is scary. So mental health, how we are going to be able to form a sustainable model for mental health is something that we need to discuss. A sustainable model where we talk of gender equality, we talk of gender sensitization, sex education, normal education, and the new ramifications of today's education system for the next 1 year at least. And relationships where social distancing is causing a break in relationships. As it is, long distance relationships don't survive, and now you actually have a socially distanced relationship, which is very difficult to survive. And what about COVID patients, COVID positive patients, ostracizing them and not letting them into even general stores to buy things? The stigma that is associated now with both mental illness now, which is equal to the stigma that is now created because of COVID. So these are all considerations, and these are all things that we need to sit down and brainstorm with intellectuals like this panel and others, to be able to find a sustainable way to help and empower women and children to move past these perils for the next 3 to 4 years. It is not going to stop now. People are saying 2 to 3 years. I'm adding 2 more years because mental health, the wave will continue.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for providing an overview on what kind of distress is it creating on homes across the world. Now, considering the fact that women are the most affected, I would like to ask Spandana ma'am, should reaching women in distress need to be classified as an essential service under COVID-19, as currently it is not considered as an essential service? And also, what can be the possible policy level and legislational changes that we can adopt to promote gender equality and empowerment, especially with regards to COVID-19 policies?
Right. So firstly, a very good morning to everybody. Leela ma'am, Shravya, Sri Harshita, Punni ma'am, and Pragita ma'am. Very honored to be part of this panel discussion. So firstly, I would actually like to start with what Purnima ma'am said. She spoke about elders and the kind of struggles that she saw for elders in her own society. So I would like to say that there's a Tata Trust run a program known as Elder Spring Program, for which I am the lawyer in Telangana. So recently I had also got a call from an NRI couple saying that our parents are in Hyderabad, we are not able to get in touch with them, and we need to speak to them, and they are like too old and they can't help themselves out. So initially what we did is that we went to the parents, we tried to connect to them, and then what we realized is that because of the COVID situation, they were not able to access any of the places, areas, or medical shops, or stuff like that. So firstly, I want to give a kind of information that there is a helpline number that is run by Tata Trust in coordination with, it's supported by state of Telangana, which is 14567. It completely runs for elder citizens, and recently we've started it for PWD as well. So now the issue here is that when we talk about essential services, I think the first thing that we need to understand is that, are we as a society cautious enough to understand that women come under the essential and important category? Because a lot when you talk about essential services and importance, women are generally neglected. So first thing that we need to do is that as a policy, we need to bring awareness in the departments, in police, as well as a lot of governmental organizations, that women is an important aspect in the society, and we need to implement and we need to provide them with certain kind of services in terms when this type of COVID situation or pandemic comes up. So beginning to say, it's not that we don't have laws or policies. for women, children in general, we have a lot actually. But the problem here is the problem of implementation. So if you see, we have a Domestic Violence Act. If you see, we have, if it comes to wages, we have equal wages law. Then we have a lot of laws like Factories Act. We have Minimal Wages Act, stuff like that. But the thing is, are they getting implemented? So right now we are talking about the COVID situation. But then when you see in a general scenario also, women are generally paid less than what a man earns. In COVID, what it is happening is that it is considerably decreased because of the non-payment capacity of the employer. Now, the third thing is, as Pragita ma'am told, that there are different sectors. For example, there can be a rural woman, there can be an unemployed urban woman, there can be an employed urban woman. So the categories differ according to the societies and the areas, basically. So now what happens is that if, for example, recently I have read an article that state of UP has categorically said that labor laws are not to be implemented for the next 3 to 4 months, which I think I don't understand what is the logic behind that, because anyways, when the act is there, the law is there, still there is a lot of discrimination happening towards women. And if you particularly bring that kind of law, then the employer is in no way under an obligation to pay them, whether it is their salary or it is any kind of health benefits that they should give as part of employer, or any kind of responsibility that they have. It is just shrugged off like that. Apart from that, if you see, there are few countries I would like to mention. For example, if you go towards Europe, there's an article I recently read. I think it's Belgium, if I'm not wrong. As soon as the pandemic hit the country in March, like they were so fast, like in early March, they set up a task force. Now, what is that task force? That task force specifically deals with domestic violence and women-related issues during the COVID period. So now, under the task force, they wanted to make it so specific that they have even, I think, ordered the government has ordered the public prosecutor's office to maintain a domestic violence wing altogether. And the hearings for the same have been done mandatory. For example, like if some case comes, it has to be mandatorily, processed in a fast manner and dealt with. But is that kind of awareness there in India right now? For example, did we do that kind of policy making, implementation, discussions and all to kind of bring in that immediate effect for women? So now I would like to also point out that NCW has done a lot. For example, National Commission for Women, the main headquarters in Delhi has initially had a WhatsApp number which received huge number of calls. Then I think they had a huge number of cases coming up. So what they did was they, again, I think recently opened a hotline number also, because a lot of people were not technologically so equipped to, message or, send them SMS and all. So they have understood the gravity of the problem. They have been holding a lot of discussions, a lot of policy kind of meetings with all the state officials, police officials and all. But then the thing is that we need to probably understand that this issue is important. We need to make a specified law and policy for this during the COVID period. Apart from that, even if we think of implementing the laws that we have already, even then we can be successful. But the problem here comes on implementation. For example, I'll give you an example. For example, I'm an advocate. Today, I might fight a case, I might win a case. I will get an order. But the problem here is, winning is not the problem. The problem here is the implementation of the order. Will it happen? Now, for example, it might happen today, or it might not happen for like 1-2 years. So did the justice actually happen? So now what I'm exactly trying to say is that law is one thing, making policy is one thing, but the intention of implementing it and getting it done is the most important thing. So now for that, what can we probably do is that we need to work, or the government needs to work with multidisciplinary and intersectoral organizations. For example, a lot of NGOs or sector experts that are there, because they will be working there every day on everyday basis, and they will know what kind of policies and groundwork and research work and field work needs to be done, etc. Then the data collection. The data collection, like I think Pragita madam also specified, it has to be on different aspects. Like one can be like rural areas, one can be urban areas, one can be employment, unemployment. Then the other can be on sex. Then the other can be on like the domestic violence issues that are taking up. Mostly the domestic violence issues are taking up in, if I'm not wrong, the families which are a bit not that financially equipped, and where the husband is prone to more alcoholic conditions and all. So the thing is, this analysis has to be done properly. Then the government needs to ensure that the protection measures are gender in favor of gender responsiveness. Like, for example, it's not just making a law, but if such type of COVID comes, or if such type of pandemic comes, or anything happens, the women, children, and everybody is like, everything is like gender sensitive for them. It's like helpful for them and not a complex procedure. For example, now what happens is, there is law, there are numbers, but the problem is they are not accessible due to lockdown. But in this type of conditions, we need to understand that accessibility is very important, because what is the use of law and what is the use of a provision if we cannot access it in the right time? So that accessibility model also has to be studied. Then what happens is that the priority now, for example, now when you talk about essential services, a lot of things are there, but as you said, women is not there in essential service. So that priority to women needs to be given, that they are essential and that they are important part of the society. This kind of problems can occur only to them. That needs to be addressed in a particular format. That format needs to be drafted, or policies needs to be made. Then again, why I'm not again saying law, because law we already have a lot. The only problem is we are not implementing it. So probably we can, when such COVID situation comes, or so we can follow the model that European countries are following right now, and we can probably make an immediate task force who are proactive, efficient, and come up with something in 2 to 3 days, not taking like 1 month, 2 months also. Because this is something which needs to be addressed. Otherwise, it is like almost a life and death issue for some of the ladies, if I'm not wrong, especially when the abuse and beaten cases and stuff like that are there. Yeah, so I think that is the thing that we need to adopt. That's the policies that we need to make, and probably, make them more aware. I think awareness is also very important, which I think is lacking. Otherwise, this kind of situation for women should not arise.
Yes.
Especially in a developing country like India.
So as you mentioned previously, that we need to first recognize and understand that women are essential service, that needs to come under essential services. So now I would like to ask Shravya ma'am, as to how we undertake such systematical changes where we alter the attitude of gender stereotypes to combat such incidents and recognize the importance of gender equality.
So, see, coming to another important aspect, particularly during COVID-19 pandemic, I mean, it's my personal observation. I feel we have intensified a lot of efforts in recent months to fight two pandemics. One is the COVID-19 pandemic that threatens lives, and the economic pandemic that threatens the livelihood of millions of workers. But much less attention has been paid to the third pandemic, which is lurking in the shadows, and that happens to be the increasing violence against women. Violence against women is a grave violation of human rights, no matter when, what, how it takes place, and it can have a very negative health on women's health and livelihood also. As per the UN data, there is a serious increase in domestic violence since the lockdown. And just in case, if we take the situation of rural women, it is even more worse because they have to walk miles for getting firewood for cooking, and be it open defecation. So they have been exposed to sexual violence from non-partners, which is more than twice every day. Particularly in India, what happens is like, reporting domestic violence during normal circumstances itself is very, very difficult because the stigma around domestic violence is something, it's being treated as a couple's private matter. And if suddenly a wife goes and reports something about her husband, she's being threatened by her in-laws. Right, like Spandana mentioned, National Commission has definitely put in some good effort to address this issue. In fact, there's this campaign called Mask 19 campaign, which is introduced by France, where you're supposed to put a red dot on your palm so that you can alert your nearby neighbors or some other authorities within the colonies. So what I personally feel is that, there are certain solutions to address this issue. All the state governments must ensure that the helpline services are up and running like 24/7, and we need to create a lot of social awareness also. And, we need to improve the access for access for friendly policing and sensitive policing also, because we see that there are too many things on the paper, but when it comes to implementation, nothing actually happens in reality. Even like Purnima ma'am mentioned, I would say kudos to all those NGOs who has actually reached out to, be it migrant workers or be it women who are suffering domestic violence. See, as a founder of a women organization where we address the issues of women who suffered with the dysfunctional marriages, we've been getting a lot of calls of be it depression, or sometimes even in spite of telling people that we deal with a single woman, but still the problem is so high that people have been calling us. So we had to offer a special service during this lockdown. We have requested few psychologists to address the issue of domestic violence. I mean, to treat them so that they don't end up in committing something, committing a suicide or something, because most of these women have suicidal tendency. See, many of us, we are very privileged because we are having a safe lockdown at home, but for most of the women, they don't have that option. So I think the government have to take the initiative where they have to provide safe shelters for the victims of domestic violence. So that will definitely help them to deal with the silent epidemic of domestic violence. See, I would say the message is like loud and clear. If you have been a victim of domestic violence or know someone who is being subjected to domestic violence, I think it's time to report, and it's definitely a high time that we have to put a lockdown on domestic violence.
Thank you. Thank you for providing an overview. So now that there is a lot of violence going across, what kind of impact is this pandemic creating on reproductive health and hygiene of women? I'd like to ask Purnima ma'am to also provide few systematic changes that are required in the existing healthcare system to ensure access for sexual and reproductive health and gender-based violence for women, as now the most of the importance is given to COVID-19 and sexual and reproductive health are kept aside. They're not being considered important right now. So what kind of changes are required?
So if you've seen some, very horrifying pictures on Facebook and other social media where pregnant and just delivered women are asked to sleep next to COVID positive patients for, sheer paucity of beds. So now this pandemic has created a situation where every hospital is now wary of taking on any patient. Who knows if they're having COVID-19, or who knows if they're carriers. We've had newborn children, infected with COVID-19. So actually, it's a very scary situation. The Telangana city and state police have taken up the initiative where you can, do the rounds of, where the police do the rounds of victims of domestic violence. And they've, what they've done is they've accumulated about 15 to 20 mental health professionals like us, and through Dial 100 we are connected to a person who's a victim of either domestic violence or alcohol based violence, because of the recent the alcohol shops being opened. There was a spate of cases, so each one of us is handling about 20 to 30 cases a day, and that's a lot actually. And then we direct them back to the police, who go there and give them, at least the immediate care is taken care of, where they're given a warning, a little bit of police counseling. The police are heavily sensitized. Otherwise, there was a point wherein a woman could go and beg, police station, but domestic violence was considered an internal matter. आपका अंदरूनी मामला है, आप जाओ संभालो उसको. So today we have, at least in this state, we have this awareness that says no, domestic violence, is a big no. The same thing, even if a child calls, we are addressing the situation with the counseling for the child, counseling for the mother, and in trying to get the police to counsel the father, it is bring him back for counseling. So we're making about 2 or 3 follow-up calls. The same way, there's another NGO called COVID Sati, which is doing the same thing. I myself have a free WhatsApp chat line from my clinic, and the Hyderabad Psychiatric Society has reached out. So, keeping mental health in mind and keeping the fact that women who are deprived basic care, for sexual health, menstrual health, child care, and help for the time of the delivery, a lot of them are attempting self-harm and have suicidal behavior. We had a full-term pregnant woman who committed suicide because she could not get help at the right time. So none of these cases actually make it to the newspapers or to the news, as we all know. So I think that a sustainable policy today is probably a dream, because it's not really possible, and it's only the private sectors which are not taking on COVID positive patients, who are not permitted to take on COVID positive patients, can actually form a group and probably subsidize the rates for such patients. And even today, I think only emergencies and emergency cesarean sections are being taken on. All elective surgeries are being postponed all over the world. I have gynecologist friends all over the world, and so I think this is the stage where you see, and even all elective medical terminations of pregnancy are being postponed. So it's actually a rather bad situation. A product of rape gets pregnant and she doesn't get help. She has to carry the child to term. So, which is actually pretty traumatic for her. So, along with the medical support, we are trying to offer mental health support. But at this moment, it's not a sustainable. We have a lot of ideas. We have a lot of policies in place also for it. And as Madam said, we have a lot of laws, which are wonderful laws actually, but not being implemented. Another aspect which I would like to touch is sexual harassment at the workplace. Now, a lot of that is happening because people, particularly bank employees, all those who have to go to work, nurses, bank employees, all the women in the working sector who actually have to go to work. So now, what was probably a distributed act is now, very consolidated onto these women, and they're complaining of a lot of, sexual overtures by people, and, even people on the road apparently making lewd comments where they've never faced these things before. So these are all issues where I think we need to address this. And I don't think for the next 1 year we are going to have a sustainable policy. And only if the private hospital sector actually, rises to the occasion, will we have some kind of a sustainable. Otherwise, we are back to the NGOs, we are back to activists, we are back to people pushing for their rights rather than actually people voluntarily offering help.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you for providing actually an overview on why we cannot currently come up with sustainable solutions. So now that you have mentioned that the working sector is limited to few, and previously as Pragita ma'am mentioned that few of them are working from home and they are limited to homes, will the lockdown make women more disproportionately vulnerable to be laid off with already declining female labor force participation rate, making it even more lower? My question to Pragita ma'am.
Whether it will make, again, if I can come to this, declining rate of female participation in workforce is actually happening even before Corona. It's not a Corona specific outcome. It was happening even before Corona. If you actually look at the lot of economic analysis across the world, the lowering of female participation in workforce, to a large extent, economists say that it is because of lack of supply of skilled manpower, of which women are a vital segment. With that, they don't have skills. But in some of this, what I find as an academic researcher is demand is also something. why don't economists look at, of course, supply may be lesser, supply of qualified women may be lesser, or skilled women may be lesser, but what about demand? Are we really treating the existing women force with appropriate dignity and respect at workplace? You look at these ASHA workers, if you are familiar, again, these frontline health workers and Anganwadi workers, etc. These women, they are today, they are actually propagating about protections, preventions, going from home to home. Sadly, that and brutally, they have no personal protection equipment provided by the government. They are paid so badly, they have no insurance, they have no protection, and the kind of role they play in the society, whether with respect to maternal health, with respect to adolescent health, with respect to now health and what you call corona pandemic prevention and measures, etc. These people are even attacked by the families, by the male members of the families to whom they go on a house visit from home to home, telling women how to protect themselves during these troubled times. I believe they are even attacked by the family, and there is absolutely no protection. And these women don't get any police help also. Now, in this, given this kind of why won't the female workforce reduce? Why won't it reduce? No protection, no proper earnings, no proper insurance, no security on the job. Then why to work? So more than supply side, demand side is also one aspect. And second thing coming is the social distancing is one more. I think it has taken a very bad turn these days. Social distancing, the government very clearly meant maintain some physical distance between person and person, so that you are a little safer from contacting infection. That's what the government meant. But social distancing, unfortunately, is snowballing itself into that despicable practice of untouchability once again in the country. Whether it is migrant workers who are losing employment, or whether it is these ASHA workers going from home to home, helping women on how to lead a healthy sexual life, reproductive life, maternal life, etc., etc. They're also being distanced on the basis of caste. I believe in Tirupati recently, some families asked them openly in a very the very naive, very native Telugu, ఏం కులం అమ్మా అనేది, నువ్వు లోపలికి వచ్చే కులమా, బయటకు వెళ్ళే కులమా? This is what this is one of these studies, because I have been a part of these Roshini projects and all, where we spoke to a lot of ASHA workers and all, and even the study is ongoing. And this is one, and that lady was telling, when they're asking, some of them belong to different communities, and where to practice untouchability is exclusively the preference of the owner of the house. He may choose any community, he may choose untouchability for any community. That's his choice, his or her choice. This is one thing. And one more aspect of reducing female participation in workforce. See, if you look at this, earlier also we had pandemics in the world. We had Ebola virus, we had H1N1, etc. At that time also, across the world, it was found that female workforce was deteriorating. The number of females were deteriorating from the workforce. You know what was the reason? The reason was simply that the child care burden of women has increased, because it led to closure of schools, and closure of schools actually has a direct cost on pandemic control. The moment schools close down, it is understood that child care is automatically the responsibility of the mother, and therefore the mother has to make a judicial choice whether to work or to stay. And H1N1 and Ebola virus actually started this. Every pandemic control, that is when pandemic controls have become gendered in the world, because the moment schools are closed, automatically the woman's responsibility is doubled at home. And now she is at a crossroads, whether to continue to work or to stay at home and take care of children. If she chooses to work, she's actually taunted as an irresponsible mother. That's when obviously she has no choice but to leave the job and take care of children. Unfortunately, as I repeat that statement, sharing of domestic responsibility is never a norm in India or in Pakistan or in many other South Asian countries, and also in some African countries also. And female workforce is exclusively coming down. And slightly a little more, if we get into this, we are talking so much about women, but the other vulnerable section is girls, the adolescent girls. As Punima ma'am said, and Spandana and Shravya also said, girls are also a very vulnerable group. Unfortunately, as my co-panelist said, menstrual health, because we have done an extraordinary or rather very longitudinal study on menstrual health, and we find that menstrual material in India is in a super shortage. The National Rural Health Mission has actually taken up a vow to produce hygienic menstrual material to women, but unfortunately the supply is very, very short. Do you know that women working in factories, they actually use that factory cotton which is doused with chemicals and various other things, they use that as a menstrual material. They use husk and they use ash as a menstrual, for absorbing menstrual blood. In Assam, I have actually seen this in Assam when we went to do the study. In Assam, flower pots where we put plants in small pots of mud, they sit on that pot without an underwear so that the blood is absorbed by the mud. And the same pot is used by all the women in the house. They're not only that they are supposed to sit outside the house, they are supposed to sit in these kinds of. And now with the closure of schools, girls who were getting some kind of a menstrual advice in schools or menstrual material in schools, even that facility has been curtailed severely because of closure of schools. And therefore, even in India, mostly the day girls start menstruating, schooling is stopped. And given that certain other laws and policies which are encouraging girls to go to school, these facilities have to be there. And in most workplaces in India, especially the informal sector, there is no toilet for women. There is no toilet for women. And even if there is a toilet, because they don't come under any labor law protection, madam, as you said, it is not an obligation for the employer to provide a toilet for women. I believe if women has a biological requirement, biological need to go to a bathroom, she has to beg the employer at least for 2 hours. Meanwhile, anything can happen.
Yes.
Anything can happen meanwhile. So obviously, these kinds of conditions, make people leave the workforce. It is not always lack of skill that women don't have skill, therefore they are not in the workforce. No, the ones who are skilled, what are you doing to sustain them at workplace? And when you don't have proper policies in place, etc., obviously women's workforce keeps coming down at work.
Yes.
We don't have maternity leaves. We don't have, many sectors don't have maternity leave. You want to go on maternity, you go. It's your choice. I mean, we are not here to pay you when you're not working. There are many employers, unfortunately, even in 2020 thinking like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So from inputs from various speakers, it is clearly understood that women continue to be underrepresented in every sector, and women still face discrimination, and there is inequality which is in the society and which needs a change from a grassroots level. And I agree that this discussion is never ending and it will continue if you keep it going through. I think we are running short of time, and we'll end the session on a formal note. I thank all the speakers for providing their valuable time and discussing on the topic which is the need of the hour. And I think we all should start recognizing the value of unpaid care and domestic work through the provision of social protection policies and promotion of shared responsibility, which is one of the important aspects that has come through COVID-19. And we should also undertake reforms to give women equal rights to economic resources, etc. And also women should be given universal access to sexual and reproductive health. And many more. And I think soon by 2030 we will be improving more, and will be in better position to achieve gender equality. Thank you to all the speakers.